But that won't screw up the meaningful use.
No, it won't change our meaningful use.
At what point do we lose meaningful use?
What has to happen is we have to start reporting meaningful use April 1st. We have to have 90 days of data. So April,
Right.
May, and June, we have to submitting our meaningful use data in the 2014 meaningful use. Right now, what we're training on for next gen is 2013 meaningful use. So even if we went live December 2nd, we would have to have an upgrade to 2014, which very few software packages are up on the 2014, not next gen, but lots of them. And so we would have to have that 2014 update by the 1st of March, which if we install in January, it gets us working through the system. We get an update by March 1st. We can't have it any later than March 1st, so that we can work through the meaningful use and get it in place. And then April 1st, we start reporting. So it crunches us a little bit more, but I think we're better off
Doing it right.
doing it right, especially with our cash flow. We don't have one penny that we can delay in payments at this
Right.
point.
Yeah.
And if I have to have my staff doing dual systems where we can't get bills off, so we have to take everything out of next gen and put it back into tech time, which is possible to do, but it creates a huge amount of work. I think delaying it is our better option of doing that, especially since it's not going to take anything away from our
You won't lose
meaningful
it.
use
Yeah.
dollars at this point.
Yeah,
Well,
we
and
can't
I don't
afford to
know.
have the bills not go
Yeah,
out.
that makes a little
I don't know if
Can't.
the crew has explained to you, but these meaningful use requirements are just, they're extremely detailed requirements. There's not just 2 or 5 or 10 of them. What are there, like 40 or 50 of them or something?
52.
I mean, and they have to
Yeah.
meet those requirements for, like Deb says, 3 months. You have to have data with real patients, and then you get your money, so, I mean, this all the federal strings that are attached to, to the meaningful, to the IT, electronic health record process, I mean, so, yeah, it's pretty, and that's one lever, and then, more importantly for us right now, you're right, Deb, I mean, we've had a number of discussions about this with the cash flow crisis team, I mean, exactly right, we just cannot right now afford to have any delays on billings and stuff, with a messed up system, which.
To get this up and running and get all the bugs out of it is will it accelerate the payments?
It should, yes, because right now, we have to hand key every charge into the system. As they're putting in orders and as nurses are using products and documenting what they're doing, all that stuff automatically produces the charge in the system. So, our turnaround times right now, we're trying to get a bill out the door within 5 days in a manual process. We're gonna try and set that for 3 days. So we'll, every day is a day of AR. So, so between now and if we're able to move that date, which we're going to have to, in my mind, we are going to spin this very positive to our employees, that, frankly, Next Gen is doing us a huge favor in allowing us to delay this again, and if they decide that we can do that, I mean, that's a big thing for Next Gen. They have everything set for December 2nd. To allow us to move that to January is a huge thing. So.
And you'll know that this afternoon.
And we will know that this afternoon. But we are going to continue to train our employees. They're motivated now. We saw great attitudes, high positive energy, just fabulous things going on in the last 3 days that we've spent. It was exhausting. Kirsten and I were both like, we're exhausted today, but there was such high energy of people, and we want to keep that momentum going. So we're going to be testing, you know, we register patients in, we're gonna put them into a test system and make sure that those outcomes are coming out in the same way that they're coming out of tech time, so that right through the bill, and right on to processing and right on to Medicare receiving the claims and all that sort of stuff, is exactly the same as what it is. And so we're gonna keep that momentum going. So.
Are there any other questions about next gen? Then let's move on to QI.
Can we ask Kirsten Neely, for my benefit, about RN recruitment?
Oh.
Did you have one slot that you were still filling?
Oh, yeah, I still need like half of an RN.
Oh, not,
Okay.
I think.
you had hired 2 though, right? Right, so.
Are they local?
No, one is somewhat local. They own property at Tarkio. Currently live in Frenchtown, but are planning to build at Tarkio. The other one is from Missoula, and he doesn't know where he's gonna land after his wife graduates from physical therapy school this next year.
And you need
Okay.
one more? You said?
Half.
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 Okay.
Hopefully this.
Yeah. Get the brain.
Okay, QI program policy and procedure.
That leads me
I
on.
just, I remember, I
There's
thought
a
the
lot
board
of-
had asked for that, and so I just wanted to give you a hard copy of it. With so much, with the focus really being shifted towards quality this year, I'd like you to keep that close at hand so you can refer back to it and remind yourself what our goals are.
Can we, because it's only the first page that we have, and it's like
It's
five.
5-page.
It's a 5-page document, but we only got the first page.
Oh, Mitzi, can you
So-
take care of that?
Oh, I got
You
all
did?
Well, here, Amy, I have mine.
I only got this page.
Well, here you
In
go.
my
Here's
packet.
all 5.
Oh, yeah.
Good job.
I was a little bit confused.
Did you get 5?
No,
Um,
thank you.
And is this something that the QI committee
Yeah, 5 either.
goes through, and who's responsible for updating these?
Once a year, the QI committee reviews it,
Mhm.
and then as with all of your other policies,
Right,
PA
the board
and
does.
MD. yeah. So it's probably not the first time some of you board members have seen it.
Yeah, I couldn't, it's been a while, because we're getting up on that time where we need to go through all the policies again, once they get through internal. But,
So you'll find in that policy that I'm required to submit that dashboard report to you every month. That's where it comes from.
which moves us to dashboard report. We kind of already went over that, didn't we?
Well, Larry, I gave it to Larry because it has the volume and the financial indicators on it. But the other piece, are we down to the QI dashboard report yet?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So that's available to you in color, so you can take a look at the projects that Mineral Community Hospital is currently participating in.
So I had a question about the trauma cases that are reviewed by the state.
Uh-huh.
And again, looking at the benchmark, it's a good thing to not is this something that's required?
Oh.
What would trigger a
You know what, the
state
benchmark, there
trauma
is no
case?
benchmark.
There is no benchmark.
So it's a none instead of a 0.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I guess you
Because I
could
thought,
say.
because I'm looking at this thinking, gosh, is there something that would trigger
I guess
that
you
to
could-
happen, and is that a bad thing?
I could list the benchmark as 100%, that we're submitting our goal is to submit 100% of our trauma cases to the state for review, but it's a regulatory requirement.
Okay. I just wanted to have that clarified. Are there any questions for Kirsten about that report?
I also want to share one report with you that I didn't have ready, and you've never received a report like this from me before. But in my opinion, I think the governing board should be asking to see this information reported to you at least quarterly.
And what is it?
And it's a report that I put together about the activity that's going on at Mineral Community Hospital in order to meet the goals of our QI program. And I think this is kind of how you can monitor what we are doing to work towards our goals on at least a quarterly basis.
Oh, yeah.
Gonna go through this?
You can just read it on your own.
I do
This
have a
is-
question.
It's kind of my recommendation to the board for you to ask our hospital to be accountable, at least to show you these things, to show you what we're doing.
Could you give me a brief description of a peer review?
Sure. Peer review is an actual medical record that is submitted, and I make copies of a patient's stay. For example, the patient comes to the ER and dies in our ER. That's one type of case that 100% of those cases will go to the peer review committee. And so I'm the nurse who prepares that case. And I go to medical records and I ask for copies of the case. Then I review it and I present a brief summary. I make photocopies of the case for every member of the peer review committee. And we go through it and we have an audit tool. Was the patient properly diagnosed, treated, the outcome, was the documentation adequate, all those types of things. We review it, and then at the end, we take a look at those findings, and then there's a recommendation by the peer review committee as to what has to be done. Most often, that case will be filed, and a copy of the peer review report filed in the provider's record with no action required. Occasionally, you might file, there might be that this provider should meet with the chief of staff to review a problem with the case or something like that. That's
So
what-
the peer review committee is providers.
It is.
Yes.
We decided here that it's going to be made up of the medical staff of the whole, which is every provider who has privileges.
Okay, thanks.
So Kirsten, what do
Physician to physician, peer to peer, medical provider to medical provider.
I was wondering about a pharmacist or people like that might be.
No, not a pharmacist. And then for our external peer review cases, it's a single provider of the same level. So when it gets sent out, if it's a PA that's on the case, it will be a PA that reviews it. And it will be a PA, they strive to get PAs that work in a similar setting as ours, or an MD or a DO, or a surgeon.
Okay.
Where did these goals come from?
I guess they were handed to me when I took over the QI coordinator position. I
Okay.
guess you could say they came from the governing board.
Yeah, I'm just looking at, oh, never mind. It comes from the quality
Oh,
improvement program.
Yeah,
I was just gonna say, we wanna make sure these are in line with one another, but
yeah.
apparently
Okay.
they are. so-
They're identical.
They're identical.
I misunderstood the question.
No, that was good.
This was my first stab at it, and I realized a very important piece that I forgot that you need to know about. I need to report to you on a quarterly basis all of the external surveys that have been completed and how we did as well. And so I'll add that to this report. This is my suggestion, and I think maybe, Amy, you and I should get together and talk about what might be missing from this report that you'd like to see.
Yeah, I still, still sometimes trying to wrap my head around exactly what we need to be, how best to do this. And I think it's good when you bring things up, because half the time you'll bring things up, like, no, I never even thought about that, and you're right, it should be brought to our attention, and we should be looking at those. I'm just not always sure which avenue we need to go through, so yeah, we should.
I know, I'm not either, it's, it's my first time, and I get
And-
guidance from my peers across the state.
Yeah.
and-
It's kind of the reason why we're trying to step up education and, all this coordinating and communicating, and it's a good thing. So I appreciate that you brought this to our attention, because it is, looking through the quality improvement program, we need to, it's probably something we should have in our binders from the onset to be very familiar with, and I don't think we're as familiar with it as we need to be, so.
It's a very important
Yeah.
function for the board to make sure that, the quality program is operating appropriately.
Well, it is, and looking and saying, we need to do this, but implementing and knowing how to do it's not the same thing, and so that's where I struggle with it,
It's just an
making sure that we
oversight,
know
it's
how
an
to do
oversight
it.
function. It's a very important.
So, very good. Let's move on, unless there are other questions for Kirsten. Okay, John, COO report.
Well, we did get 25 beds in donated by Kootenai Medical Center. They're out of Idaho, and they came in. I think we're using 20 of them or so, something like that in the hospital. We have 5 to use to fix the others if we need to. We did retain a few beds in the hospital because they do some different things than these can, and we have plenty of beds right now. We gave away some beds and restored some others. We had, I think, 6 or 7 picked up by people in the community, and they like that.
The old ones.
The old ones that were there. And Larry sent a great letter to the CEO at the hospital and Kootenai Medical Center saying thanks, and apparently you know him as well.
Yeah, John.
That's good.
Ness was the COO of Billings Clinic when I worked on 2 of my interim assignments. And I know him very well, and thought we better say thanks, 'cause it was pretty nice that they donated
Yeah.
25 beds.
You said it came from Coeur d'Alene, John, whereabouts? What?
At the Kootenai Medical Center.
Oh, medical center.
The
medical
hospital.
center, the hospital there, yeah. And they're in great shape.
Good.
They work, and it's nice to have them, very nice. And our mattresses fit them, and everybody cooperated extremely well to get them ready, to clean them, to put them in the rooms. Kirsten and housekeeping, others just came together and were ready to go as we took them off the trucks.
What's the difference between that and the old ones that we had?
I don't know. They're
The hydraulics.
consistent. The
Hydraulics.
hydraulics are different, and they're consistent through the hospital better now, so that when you walk into a room, for the most part, you know how to operate the bed immediately because you have the same bed in most of the rooms. The hydraulics are a little different, and
Was it a
they're-
piecemeal before?
We had
different
3 or
kinds of
4
beds?
different types of beds, didn't
Okay.
we, Kirsten?
Yeah.
Drove the
That's
maintenance
right.
staff
Yeah,
nuts, I'm
because
sure.
we couldn't find parts to fix some
Right.
of them, and they had to order parts, and sometimes they were so expensive, they couldn't really fix the bed, so they
Okay.
put it on out the door. So we have about 4 or 5 of these that are available to use parts from to fix the beds as they don't work or something breaks down or wire goes or something like that. So maintenance is happy to have them as well
Good.
because it's more consistent to work with.
Okay. Next.
On the bus, we made a decision to stop using the bus. That happened yesterday. It was bleeding money, $2,650 a month, and that was just for salary and fuel. And
So I was under the impression that it was a wash, that it was,
oh no,
that
the
it was
bus.
being paid for by a grant.
No,
the grant just supplied the bus.
grant just bought the bus. And in
See, I
fact,
was
we
under
put
the
in about.
impression that it was for
Yeah.
service and maintenance too.
We put in $11,500 or something like that to match. And now Montana State likes the bus. They're going to take it back. We sent pictures of it to them, and they think they have some takers on it very quickly. If we actually need the smaller bus to replace what we have now to transport patients in when residents of our long-term care unit or our ALF, assisted care there, when they need to go somewhere for recreation or to
Okay.
shop or whatever, we take them in the bus. But this was so large that we needed a commercial driver to drive it, and it didn't make sense.
Well, and if
So
we're
we
not
still
getting-
use the old one.
If we weren't getting the usage of it and it wasn't bringing us business that offset the cost, then it didn't make sense.
Right.
That's right. And we did have a number of patients who did travel on the bus to come to the hospital, but not, how many did we have, Monty? Four over 6.5 months or 7 months. And it just didn't make sense. And we looked at that cost and thought, hey, this is a great service. It's not bad PR, but our core service in the hospital is really not transportation. There's a transportation council in town. Monty sits on the board, and they have vans to do this very thing if they will. And so if we want to apply for another bus, we can, but we might be at the bottom of the stack now to apply for a grant. So-
Didn't we just say we bought the Chevy for the purpose of transporting those?
Well,
patients?
the Chevy is used for the most part for that. But
Right.
if we take more than 5, then we use the bus.
Well, and
Well,
if
And
somebody's
if
in a
there's somebody in
wheelchair-
a wheelchair, you have to use the bus because it has a wheelchair lift. And that's one of the reasons for that. We try to use it very sparingly. But it is used once in a while because it has a
For an activity
wheelchair.
with long-term
Yeah,
care.
a wheelchair
or with
lift
the
in it.
assisted living.
And they can put a couple of patients on in wheelchairs and they can go places.
Do we need both the Chevy and the smaller bus?
Yes, for the most part, yes. The Chevy bus has 200,000 on it. Not the Chevy bus, but the bus has about 200,000 miles on it. Still workable. What should have happened, and it didn't, is the bus was too large, and it was supposed to replace the older bus that we still have here. But it was 23 passengers, and that meant a commercial driver, and we couldn't use it as much locally. And then we put into the grant somehow that it would be used publicly. That isn't really our mission. So it didn't fit, and it's gone, and it's working not to have it. And it should be, we hopefully have it picked up or gone to another facility in the next few weeks. But that's not up to us because Montana State is handling that right now. So,
John, you might
Okay.
mention that the bus driver, he,
oh, yeah.
the situation with him, and I know Leona is, we were at the chamber last week, and we visited with the chamber folks about this last week too, but that worked out kind of nicely, really, I thought.
Yeah. Well, our bus driver had begun a new business. The bus is driving 3 days a week. And he began a carpet cleaning business, is picking up, and he's doing well with that. And he had wondered why we were still operating the bus. So when I sat down with him and said, hey, this isn't working, he says, I know. And so he was a very honest guy and didn't seem that surprised at all. But there was no notice to him except that he knew he wasn't picking up very many passengers or making rounds in the city.
But he had an alternate employment.
Yeah, he'd already begun a new business on his own. He was already working in a new business Mondays and Fridays and weekends, cleaning carpet.
And I heard the rest of the story from Leona last night.
Oh.
Do you mind if Leona?
Oh, go ahead.
Kind of fills in the gaps there. It was interesting to me how this kind of worked.
Go ahead.
I don't know how many of you are familiar with Postmaster at DeBorgia, Russ Boulder. He's done doing my carpet since I've been in town, and he does an excellent job, has an excellent reputation. He decided he wanted to retire. He sold all of his equipment to a person I will name unmentioned, who immediately left town with it. So part of the deal was that he was going to get Russ's machinery plus Russ's clientele. Well, no machinery, long gone. So Dan came in and said, I'll buy the new machinery if you'll share your clientele. So it worked out very well.
Oh,
Good.
thank
So
you.
it's really worked out well for the community.
That's good.
I was
That's
just
good.
thrilled to hear this last night when we were at the chamber meeting.
Yeah, that's
You
very
think I'd
good.
be
Well-
able to provide, how they change carpets in the front of the castles and drink?
No, that's done by Missoula Textiles.
Yeah.
They do all that. They pick up the carpets he comes on Tuesday because I'm the local outlet for the pickup. He comes in, takes my dry cleaning, brings the stuff from last week back clean. They do all that with the carpets. Now, Russ does carpets.
Indoor.
Indoor, yeah, and if he does as well as I have, he's coming to my place the 1st of December to do mine.
Danny
at the
Warder
store.
is, yeah,
And,
okay.
and if he does half as well
Danny
as
Warder.
half as Russ did, hey, I'll be overjoyed. He
Yeah.
makes our carpets look brand new.
Good. Well, I think there's a PR plus also, quite honestly, to getting rid of the bus, because I can't tell you
Amen.
how many comments I would hear from members of the public. You know, I see that bus driving around empty all the time, it's driving me nuts.
It sat there for
And-
6 months.
Well, yeah.
Not even
yeah,
being used.
It was, yeah.
It was too big.
It was too big. The last thing I have is flooring. We've had some flooring
Well,
available.
Before
go
the
ahead.
surgery services?
Yeah, I missed that. Okay. Dr. McClellan, as was reported by Larry, is doing ENT work. He's fun to have around. He's just a good guy. Lives in St. Regis. He started out 1 day a month, and 2 now he's working 4 days a month, plus a surgery day when he needs one. And he then met with, last week, we had the two of them meet, Dr. Gardner and Dr. McClellan, and then we had lunch with them. And they were planning how to do surgeries together with both of their skills, working on, it was great. You don't often see that happening with surgeons, and here these guys were almost old friends within an hour or two. But Dr. Gardner is, his contract has one tiny thing to do in yet. I talked to his accountant yesterday, talked with him yesterday. I will spend some more time with Dr. Gardner today. The final should go out today to him. And it was a very minor item, and he wanted his accountant on it. Well, that's been resolved. I hope to have that back shortly so that it's signed, sealed, and delivered, and then we can work towards getting him ready to bill for. And that goes then to Deb and her team to get him ready to bill, and hopefully December 21st will work for him. He does have hospital privileges. He's ready to go now as far as privileges are concerned, but we want to be able to get the bills out once he's here. And he's a fun individual, and some of the providers are holding some cases for him right now. They know he's coming, and they've met him and spent some good time with him. So we're looking forward to that, and he's available 1 day a week to start with, and that's whatever day we want him to work. It was going to be Fridays, but he's available. I think Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday might be better days because it's in the middle of the week, and so he'll work with us that way.
We're all up to speed on all the equipment and everything that needs to.
Yeah, he
get
likes our
out.
equipment. We're in pretty good
So we're
shape
not
that
having
way.
to put money.
And the bread and butter for for the surgeon is scopes. I mean.
That's right.
so come in and get your colonoscope, and we'll be happy to accommodate you.
Okay.
Yeah, and we have
all the scopes.
And he saw them and likes our scopes. He says, "Oh, Olympus, I was trained on Olympus, and that we have
All right,
Olympus
that's pretty
scopes." So,
soon.
All right,
so
good.
it
Well,
works.
let's move on to flooring then.
We've had flooring available for the day room back in the southeast portion of the hospital, and we just put it in Saturday and last night, and that flooring is done in that area. We need to put up the wall. What is this called?
Baseboard.
The floorboard? or
The baseboard. The baseboard needs to go back up, and we're thinking, well, we need to do some painting, a little painting first, and working with Stacy. She's our local color artist as far as interior decorating. She does well with colors, and so she's looking at that and trying to figure out, and we have lots of paint, so we think we can choose a color that'll work. And then there's enough left in the contract to go back and do the back hallway if we could just get a couple more small boxes of the same flooring. So we think we can do the back hallway, and then hopefully as our cash flow improves, we'll connect the hallways all the way down.
What kind of flooring is it?
It's,
So are we
it's-
replacing carpet?
yes, we want to. It's the same flooring as is in the entry that we worked with the Helmsley grant to do.
Okay.
If you walk into the hospital, it's the same flooring. We want to have that throughout.
Okay.
And it's much easier to clean. It works.
Yeah, carpet just seems like a magnet for
Everything.
for
That's right.
infections.
That's
I mean,
right.
it's gross.
So, and the housekeeping people
was
are
really good.
happy. it's easier to clean and so forth, so we're making good progress there.
They had to talk to me for an hour and a half to convince me to spend the money, but we did.
The bid came in at $22.50, and we're below that enough, we could have, because it's based on an hourly basis, so
Okay.
it's working.
Yeah, Larry gave us $50 of playing room.
And we're gonna stay under
I wanted
it.
the whole thing done for $50.
Yeah. He tried.
Right.
Shoot for the moon, right?
And then just for your information, mammography, we had a record month in October. It was one more than we'd had in the past, but we had 8 less days in the past to do mammography in the
Well, it's
special
also
month.
Breast Cancer Awareness Month,
That's
so
right,
you would expect
that's
there
right.
would be more in October.
That's right. But we had one more, and although we had 8 fewer days, and then ultrasound, we had a record 29. We hope that continues to build. So we're making progress in some of
Excellent
those
imaging
areas.
services.
Yes, we do. We have.
Excellent imaging. You had some really, really good,
It's
imaging.
really good staff, too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, outreach marketing report. I have Monty and Mitzi.
Okay, I think I'll just sneak around here, kind of over here. I thought what I could do, since there's a report here, that I can give you an update, because some of the stuff that I sent into Mitzi was like 10 days ago, and give you an update and then answer any questions. I just took our first load of the holiday food drive goodies over to the food bank. There's 59 pounds, and I think that's pretty good.
I would say, are we getting good participation with that?
Oh, yeah,
My
we are.
wife
We-
came and visited last week, and she stayed at the apartment, and she went down to Castle's and bought a whole bunch of stuff and put it over there. so.
All milk and eggs that we had to discard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tomatoes, on the bottom, tomatoes.
They just squished them down. You see, if anybody, I'm gonna leave these here, okay? Because we've got them out, but if you know of a place, hey, we need some more posters out there.
Are they all over the county?
They're supposed to be. I didn't double check. Danny, the bus driver, whenever we would get posters, he was responsible for putting them up. I hope they're out there. I have not driven up to Salties to make sure. and
Is
so-
there in St. Regis? If they're not, I can take some up there.
I wouldn't mind if you just took them,
Okay,
okay?
Brought some into me.
okay.
Yeah, and
Good.
he gets the easy ones. Sometimes we miss the little cubby holes. So if you know of any place, it's wonderful.
Okay. Well, can
Yeah,
I
I'll
replace
take-
the bus schedules?
Hey, there you
Yes.
go.
Oh, those were supposed to be taken down. They're still not down.
Well, there were some at the school
Okay,
that I thought I saw.
if you can pull them down.
Okay, there was just a stack of them.
There were 2 people down there standing waiting for the bus today.
They're probably still there, Jim.
Yeah, I'll take one for the fire hall.
Okay, good, thank you, appreciate it, John. But this is being promoted and people are talking, Mineral Independence, gonna do another article on it. And, I'm going in next week, the week after, to, promote it on KPAX, KECI, KGVO radio, so that hopefully the overlay will come up here too. And of course, we'll always take checks and make them out to Mineral Community Food Bank. So 59 pounds, I thought was really pretty good. Oh, and then what they did was they said, we have 65 cases of these beautiful apples, Shady Lady apples, is that what they're called?
Pink lady, yeah.
Pink Lady. Shady. Pink Lady apple. Anyway,
I think that was intentional.
they've got all these cases over there, if anybody wants them. They're getting them out to all their clients, but they still have too many. So if you know of anybody, they're open till 3:30 today.
The truck bringing those apples in
Yeah.
was overweight. They had to take 60 boxes
Ooh, is that
off
what
the
it
truck,
was?
and they donated it to the food
Bank.
bank,
Would be.
and that's why they're there.
Oh my God, they're all
and-
packed in styrofoam.
Oh, yeah, they're extremely
gorgeous
well
with the
packed,
little
yeah.
crates
And
underneath.
those
Got
are
'em at
very
scale,
expensive apples. They
probably.
were going from Seattle all the way to New York City.
They caught
And
them
the
at the
truck was
scales.
overweighted the scales. It was a $500 fine or take off 60 boxes. They took off 60 boxes and kept going.
I'll be darned. Well,
That's
there you
what
go.
happened.
Apples for everybody. And there's some up in the 2 lobbies too. So you can sample one, then go get a case
The
for
senior
yourself.
center has some too.
Yeah.
So look at this. We're gonna become the
I'll
apple
take one back to
community.
Helena the second.
See, there you
Where are
go.
they?
Hard cider.
What-
They're at the food bank,
Yep.
At the food
and
bank.
they're overwhelmed with apples.
Overwhelmed with beautiful, beautiful apples.
Yeah.
Spread the word, I guess, right?
The VA still has not getting returned a call or any emails or anything on the proposal that we made on September 30th. That was Karen Sullivan, Bill Bonatetti, Lieutenant Colonel Pigeon, and myself on primary care here. So there was a veterans stand down the other day at the Chamber of Commerce, and I talked to one of the reps and told him I was a little discouraged that we haven't heard yes or no or whatever. So he said, I will get an answer for you. I'm sorry about that. I don't, at this late in the game, it's probably not gonna be much that they can do, but we offered, and we really do have a great service we could offer them. It will help us, them, and all the vets. And down at the bottom here, our ideal protein diet is exploring the ideal Christmas in a giving tree fashion. Great idea, we just didn't have enough time to put it together. And then last night at the chamber, exactly, go ahead, Leon.
For the third or fourth year in a row, we put out wishing trees. I think there's 8 of them out in the community. They have little tags on them. It just says male or female and their age. We're asking for either a $10 bill or a $10 unwrapped gift that's age appropriate, nothing pornographic, yada, yada, yada. And preferably no foods, because we don't know what the allergies are. You can leave them at any of the drop spots. If you put